Welcome into the practice tee inside the MGL Sim Studio. Bill Hobson here. Austin Deiters over here. He's the head golf professional at the Midland Golf HQ in Midland, Michigan. But even if you're not in Michigan, all of this can help you. Now, we have had two prior chapters to this Lesson T series. We dealt with posture and alignment. We talked about the takeaway positions that you should be in and getting your left shoulder over your right side if you're a righty and the opposite if you're a lefty. So in this third and final part, where are we headed?
We're probably headed to one of the more important parts in our golf swing, and that is controlling of the club face.
Oh yeah.
So we can hit all the positions we want. If we don't have control of our club face, that ball is going to start going all over the place. So we would need, some different things to be able to understand how do we control that face. And I would say most players aren't even aware of what's going on up there, right?
Yeah.
They're just going through a motion and hoping that the club face shows up in the right way.
As one of the things that here in the Sim Studio I pay the most attention to is this face to path measurement over here. And it's interesting because I can feel something and I'll think, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
That was probably professional quality. And then I'll look over there and I'll see a number that's not very good. And of course the ball is not on target. So let me ask you a question before you get into teaching, because I try to represent everybody who's an amateur golfer and can't hit it like Austin Deiters. I can set up perfectly, right? But if I don't return the club to what I think is the proper setup, then I'm not going to get the results I'm looking for, right? So the difficulty in this silly game that we love so much is I could be in the right spot here, but if in all of the other mechanics I don't get it back there, we're going in the water in this particular case, right? So how do we get back to the right spot?
So there's two things that are majority of the influence on where a ball goes. You got your club path and your club face. So those are the two most important. And I would say club face has more influence in the path. So the reason we can't always return to the same spot is because we're coming on a different path, right? We have to match that up. And that right there is the kind of the challenge. So if you come inside out, you better have a face closed or it's going right. If you come over the top, you better have a face open or it's going left. And the extreme variances from there.
And every once in a while, when it's in complete meltdown disaster mode, you hit the shank. Right?
Exactly.
And then the Hazel rocket or whatever you want to call it. We've all been there from time to time.
Been there. I've hit a couple.
In fact, several years ago, when we were in the midst of shooting a series of TV shows and I was just getting burned out, I had a case of the shanks and I could not hit a ball. I couldn't hit a ball straight at all. We were at a golf course in West Branch. And my goal was if my goal was to hit it there, I was hitting it there.
That's a horrible spot.
I was a mess. And finally, one day, we were up in northern Michigan shooting a show at Shanty Creek Resorts, and the retired professional Roger, he said to me, let's go make some omelets. I had no idea what he was talking about. He took me to the range. We set up my ball here. We set up another ball there. And he said, normally I would use an egg, and that's where the omelet thing came in. He said, because if you're doing it wrong, your legs are going to get egg all over them. And he was retraining all of the inside out and the club face alignment. So that if I hit that ball, it was wrong. Because I was coming over the top. So anyways, I have experience in this department. So teach us how we can avoid ever getting to the point where we have to go make omelets.
I thought you were going to say, took the change, put it in your left pocket, hat sideways.
You might as well have. I tried everything.
That is a great one. So often when someone starts, let's say, striking on the inside or mishits, sure there are positions, right? But there's plenty, you've seen plenty of wild swings that find their center, right? And that's just their hand-eye coordination and building those motions and retraining those things. And I will put a ball like this right here. And I'll put it real tight to that toe edge right there, and I'll say, hit that ball, miss that ball. And if they do that over and over again, they're going to start to train how to strike more of that toe side and get out of that habit of that club kicking out and hitting inside.
When I was helping coach high school golfers, I tried that, and we nearly killed other golfers on the range.
You got to work through it,
Make sure you've got space and safety.
A tee works just as well.
There you go. Okay, so how can we make sure we have everything right?
Okay, so and as far as club face control and everything, once we set up there, we're good, right? Once we go ahead and take it up top, I want to see that left wrist try to be as flat as possible. So again, small variances is okay.
By flat, describe flat.
We don't want to see a big cupping. We don't want to see a big bowing. And you'll see a little bit of this. More people like this probably you know, with that wrist bowed like this
Yeah.
rather than the opposite.
Yeah.
But we want to try and remain as flat as possible here to keep that club face nice and square.
Okay.
And then as we start our way down, I like to feel in this lead wrist is where a lot of our club face control happens. So we control our face by this motion right here. And these,
Yeah.
that's how we close our face as we start our way down.
Yeah. So I hear a lot about lag,
Yeah.
things like that, when this is where some of the distances come from. These
Yeah.
guys who are able to, what they say is load up on
Yeah.
all this. I don't have much of that. I don't know why. I never have.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm a big person who hits it a short amount of short distance. But if I'm coming up here, how can I check to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that I've got everything in the best possible position to get me back to where I started?
Right. So this is a little bit of a commercialized coat hanger, but the coat hanger does the same trick.
Okay.
Kind of bend a wire coat hanger around to stick in the end there, comes around, and attach it right there.
Okay.
And what we do is when we take this club here, and we'll do for the demo here. When we take this club up, we want to maintain contact with that lead wrist right there.
Okay.
So if we start to cup that wrist, that coat hanger comes off, our face is now open. If we start to really bow, you'll feel an immense amount of pressure as we go through.
So we want to make sure if we don't have that contraption that we're in a normal coat hanger at address,
Yeah.
we're feeling it resting against our arm, and it should remain there throughout, right?
At address, it doesn't need to remain directly on it, but it should
Yeah.
remain very close.
Okay.
And then as we take that back, it starts to attach and come close, and we take that club up and get up into here. Again, if that starts to happen and starts to get pressure on that trail arm, that face starts to get wide open.
Okay. What's the danger of that face getting wide open up there? Can you talk about the effect that has?
It triggers a lot of things. So if we're open, we make no changes, we come down, my face is just wide open, right?
Yeah.
So then we start to get fancy and either flick it to shut, or we just leave it wide open. And that's where we see a really big power loss from people as they start to hit it like a cut shot in tennis rather than really a forehand in tennis, right?
Is that something you see borne out in like the spin data that comes through as well?
Yep, spin will be high, launch will be high, we're adding loft to the club, effectively turning our 7-iron into the effective loft of a 9-iron. And so we're losing a lot of distance that
So
way.
one of the things we see the great players do is take a club that makes no sense to us how somebody's hitting a 7-iron 230 or
Yes.
something like that, right?
Correct.
Well, they're certainly not sacrificing spin. They are coming back through as square as possible and getting maximum compression out of all of
That
this.
is correct.
So if you can freeze frame at the top, any professional golfer, 99 times out of 99, they're going to be really square.
Very
So all of their concentration and all of their rhythm is now it's just focused on delivering the power to the ball as opposed to trying to compensate and get back.
Correct, yeah.
Which is something I think we do even subconsciously when we know we're off.
Majority of it is subconscious, right? A lot of our habits we're not telling ourselves, hey, come over the top on this ball. They're all just subconscious movements.
Yeah.
And there are exceptions, right? Your Dustin Johnsons, he's a very bowed
Yeah,
left
right.
wrist.
Yep.
These are freaks of nature as far as athleticism comes. Freddie Couples notoriously had a real open face and whatnot, but yeah, once you get to the spot there, now we can do little manipulations to be able to get the club back to square.
It's kind of remarkable. I think the term might be proprioception of how our body will try to adjust back to where it knows it's supposed to be when it's off.
Yes.
We're just kind of made that way.
Yeah.
So again, an at-home drill for those who are frozen and don't have access to a simulator or something like that. How can we work on all of this? We can take the coat hanger in front of the mirror.
Yep, that's a good one.
And what else can we do?
As far as when you're coming down, just starting to understand, okay, face to there, right? And start to deliver that club back to square this way. And we have that nice flat lead wrist. So often we'll see players, they want to do that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Or even worse, you kind of see they want to open it. We want to try and deliver that club back down to square.
And one of the things that I've tried to help make the point for some of my higher handicap friends is that when you have an iron in your hands lead through the ball.
Yes, they do.
They beat the club face to the ball, right?
Yes, exactly.
And the other is, I think the other version of that is called casting, which is where if you get this flippy out front, then you got no chance.
Right.
So maybe one of the things we're going to practice in our basement, garage, bedroom, wherever, doesn't have to be a ball. Maybe you just put a coin down there and make sure that as you're approaching it, you see your hands out front.
Yeah, getting those hands forward. I mean, that's again, so we're de-lofting the club at that point.
Yeah.
We wonder how someone hits a 7-iron so far. Well, they're de-lofting that club by getting their hands forward and turning that 7-iron into an effective loft of a 5-iron. So they're getting maximum output there.
What's the danger of getting your hands too far out front?
Well, we start to then make our bottom of the arc really far in front of that ball. We can often get thins.
Yeah.
And then that would be probably the biggest thing is we start to thin the ball,
Okay.
or we get really low ball flights.
Gotcha.
And those would be the two biggest ones.
All right. Get yourself to a simulator during the winter, or if you're blessed to be in a warm weather state, get outside and hit some balls. Go see a PGA professional near you. And if you happen to be in the Great Lakes Bay region and you want to have some instruction from this guy, stop in at the Midland Golf HQ. They've got a bunch of simulator bays and every brand under the sun. And Austin's pretty good at teaching. So make sure you check all that out. More than anything, don't let these winter months go by without doing something. Because one of the most bewildering traits of a lot of golfers is that they do nothing all winter. They show up in the first sign of sunshine and green grass and wonder why their game isn't very sharp. Right? This is a game that requires a lot of work to be invested in it. And sometimes you can do that work without even being at a golf course or having a ball anywhere nearby.
I think that is a great way to practice habits, especially in these cold times if you happen to be like us.
Good stuff. Thanks for your help.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
See you next time on The Practice Tee.